Hey guys, Monday. Start the week with a little bit of bike maintenance. Just put a new 11-speed wax chain on the TCR. So put that on the trainer and check that was the issue and check that my clunkiness is gone. But yeah, I got this new cassette. It's 1134 for the first time. So yeah, that's why I end up putting an old 1130 on the trainer. But that's obviously a lot less worn than the cassette that I was using, which is why I got the clunkiness with an old chain. But yeah, brand new wax chain and cleaned up all the jockey wheels. This is a different chain set with a new front chain ring as well. They're nice, very shiny. Polished up the front derailleur because that was all mucky from loads of wax accumulating over time. There we go, nice functional drivetrain. Also put some new cleats on the indoor shoes and adjusted the orientation of the cleat to match what I've been running on my other shoes. So a much more neutral heel position. But I can twist the heels inwards if I want to try and get a bit more glute activation. Nice drivetrain sounds, brand new wax chain and like clean components. There we go, nice easy recovery ride there. Feeling good, hopefully get a good night's sleep tonight and then should be able to train tomorrow. So yeah, like feeling absolutely fine today, but like I said, yesterday was like an extra rest day. Today was always planned to be a rest day. Got my low cadence sprint session tomorrow and yeah, should be able to have a crack at that. Snow's starting to melt as well. Let's go. Hey guys, it's Tuesday. Back on the bike properly for a ride today, but just riding endurance. So normally this Tuesday would have been a session day, so I would have done my sprints, a 2-minute test effort, and then also high torque work. However, I've taken the last 2 days off because I've been unsure about, had a little bit of a tickle in my nose and sometimes my throat. Nothing major, but obviously didn't want to make things worse, so just gave myself that extra little bit of rest, just changed an endurance ride for a rest day on Sunday last week. Feeling good today, so feeling back to normal and don't think there's any issues, but didn't want to risk it with a session. So just been riding zone 2 today. I think I'll scrap that session. Done 4 hours zone 2, started on Zwift with my free trial for January. So hour and 40 on Zwift and then 2 hours 20 on Training Peaks Virtuals. 4 hours at zone 2. Heart rate's a little bit higher than normal, but I'm pushing a little bit more power as well, just a bit of freshness in the legs. Not even really related to the illness, I don't think. Then I think I'll ride endurance again tomorrow and then do a TT tempo session on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, another sprint and high torque session this week on Saturday, so I'll do my 2-minute test effort there. But I won't do the heat. I did 2 heat sessions last week, and I don't think the heat sessions last week got me ill. I don't think it was last week that got me ill. I think it was last week of the year was a big training week for me. It was like 23 hours, and I never felt fully recovered during that rest week. And then last week was, again, a solid week of training, and I think that combined ended up being a little bit more susceptible to developing something in the throat and the nose. But it's undeniable that the heat, I know from last year, the heat is a big stressor for me. I need to be very careful with reintroducing it, I'd say, so not going to bother with it this week, and then next week I'll try again at doing some more heat work. Skip it for this week, make sure I'm all back to normal, get a solid week of training done, and yeah, and keep training, keep pushing the boat out further. Snow is melting. Might get outside tomorrow. Yeah, 2 hours 20 plus the hour 40 I did already. Good stuff. Feeling quite nice on the pedals, doing 230 watts indoors rather than 220. Heart rate has been a little bit higher though, but nothing insignificant, just like 125 rather than 120. Right, getting outside for the first ride of the year, out not on the turbo. Yeah, getting cabin fever to an extent. No, but the ice has finally melted. So I mean, until yesterday, my road was sheet ice. So I mean, if I could have got out for a ride like the past few days, but I would have had to walk the bike to the end of the road. That would have been sketchy. And then I'm out on the road and I might have hit a patch of ice even if I stuck to main road. So yeah, but it's warmed up a lot over the last few days, and pretty much all the ice has melted. So I'll be careful today, but it should be absolutely fine and yeah, decently warm. So we're wrapped up. It's gonna be very wet because obviously all the snow and ice has been melting over the past couple of days. Nice blue skies, so yeah, should be good. Lovely ride, 2.5 hours in. First flat tyre in a long ass time, but yeah, got front flat, so I'll try and change that out now. It's been a while, but I have got tools with me, so yeah, have a crack. But yeah, sun's come out, it's really nice. I mean, it's wet on the roads, there's debris, so looks like there's a little bit of glass in the tyre. Yeah, just this section here, something in there, so yeah, change out the inner and see if it's alright. Doesn't take much, does it? That was jammed right in the tyre. Tiny bit of glass. That's actually my first time using a CO2 cartridge. I've bought them multiple times before, and I bought, this is my third one that I bought, but I never used them because I lost my saddlebags twice. So this is my third like CO2 inflator, CO2 cartridge, but it's only the first one I've used because I don't flap very often. But look, it's like frozen up the valve. That's quite funny. 70 odd PSI in there. Let's get back on the road and see how it is. Right, the old dog seems to be holding air, so I'll crack on with the ride, and got about an hour left. 2 3/4 into the ride now, aiming for around 4. So yeah, an hour and a bit left to go. Lovely now, look at this, but because of all the, I mean, we've not had a great start to the year. It was lovely for that final week of the year for the Festive 500, but then we had, for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, like big rainstorms, so and then like a week plus of really cold temperatures and snow and ice on the road, so plenty of new potholes in the Peak District. Yeah, the roads out here aren't great already, and they're getting battered some more. But yeah, there's so much like debris on the roads and stuff, which is the main issue today, which is probably why I got the puncture. Like that little bit of glass, that's all it takes, just coming in at the right angle, and yeah, you get flat. So, but it happens. I've been very lucky for the past year. Tend to run higher pressures just because to avoid pinch flats, and so I mean, this wasn't a pinch flat. This was just a bit of an unlucky one. But yeah, I'm pretty lucky when it comes to flats. But yeah, thankfully I know how to change a tyre. The CO2s work like a charm. There we go, good 4 hours in the bank there. Heart rate was elevated from the start. Like I feel like I've cleared this whatever illness I had, like a little bit of tightness in the throat and the nose. Like I feel absolutely fine on the ride, and then I finished riding. Like I finished riding yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I feel absolutely fine. And then some tickles in the nose come back, and then I finished my ride now, and I'm like, oh, is there a little bit of tightness in the throat? But generally, I feel absolutely fine, to be honest. So I'm just going to press on with. I'm going to do some TT tempo work tomorrow, but yeah, I did 4 hours zone 2 yesterday, 4 hours zone 2 today, both of which felt absolutely fine, and heart rate was a bit elevated today, but it was elevated from the start, and nothing too irregular, just like closer to what you'd see in your off season for when you get back into riding after having a bit of a break, getting like mid 130s and then 140 BPM. When I get out of the saddle, get above 140 BPM, but it's nothing crazy really, and like I say, I was mainly just doing it to feel, and I felt absolutely fine, so I was happy to press on. But yeah, just solid ride in the bank there. Nice day for it. First outdoor ride of the year. First puncture of the year as well. Get that out of the way. You're just thinking, this little cough that I'm feeling now, that's really common. I always have a little bit of a cough after a long ride like that, and it's been a little bit cold. I mean, the temperature's been fluctuating loads. Those times where it got really cold. But yeah, I feel absolutely fine, and might be the case that I haven't completely kicked this illness, but I imagine that it will be completely gone in the next few days, even if I keep training as normal from now on. So like I took kind of yesterday off, didn't do my session, but yeah, I think I'm overthinking things a bit. CTT finally updated their website this morning, so the domestic calendar has been made available to see what events are going to be on. So I've been looking through that and looking at the courses that I want to do, and like coming up with a bit of a plan of a potential time trials I want to do for this season. So yeah, like the return of the ski slope in Wales. It's the fastest course in the country, but it is a big old drive for me. It'd be like 3.5 hours, 180 miles. So I mean, I can stay with my grandma in Somerset and break up the drive like that, but yeah, it's still going to be a long way. So definitely want to try it at least once, but maybe not like multiple times. Hey guys, it's Thursday on the turbo for a TT tempo session today. So last week I did 3 by 20 minutes for 10 minutes rest. So Today I'm going to be doing 3 by 25 minutes and probably keep the same 10-minute rest, but I mean, if I'm feeling a bit more fatigued, then add it up to 15, just see how I cope with the longer effort. Last week was the first time doing a long sort of effort in a while. But obviously these are longer, but I've adapted to the stimulus of doing a long effort again, so I'll see how it goes. Feeling absolutely fine, slept well last night, so I'm hoping I've kicked this whatever mild cold I had. But yeah, feeling absolutely fine. I was feeling fine yesterday. Heart rate was a bit elevated, but all of the vital signs are good, I'd say, so I'm happy to press on and have a go at doing a session today. It's an hour and a bit of tempo, 75 minutes of tempo. It's not crazy in terms of the session. As your first session back, it's a nice one to ease back into things because it's not too stressful on the system. It's more stressful than just endurance riding, don't get me wrong, but it's not as crazy as doing some VO2 max work. Just finished my warm-up and everything seems good. Just did my little ramp and some sprints. Spin out the legs for a little while longer and then crack on with the first effort and yeah, spend some time in the sticks. I'm playing around with a different position. I've increased my saddle height by like 1 centimetre and increased the stack on the front by the same. So I just lifted that position up. Feels a bit foreign at the moment, but just getting used to what it feels like. I decided that's something I might want to play around with, further changing around the stack on the front and try and close that gap. Currently I'm very low saddle, very low on the front, seeing what higher saddle feels like, if I can produce a lot more power or if the pedal stroke feels better. I didn't feel uncomfortable with the low saddle, but might be able to have a lot more of an efficient pedal stroke if it's just a little bit higher. It's almost gone. It was a big old pile. I don't know, with raising everything up, it feels like I could really reduce the reach and then tuck my head in and be able to tuck my head in, be able to see where I'm going. Because a big issue with people really tucking their head in, like track riders, is it's just not safe outdoors. But I feel like if you have a really short reach and your head is like at the tip of where your hands are, you can really tuck that head in, but then your vision's not being restricted by your hands. So that might be something to play around with, like really go a lot shorter on the reach, and then my head's just like over the top of the hands. Definitely going to take it a bit easier today. Yeah, doing 3 by 25 minute tempo, but being a bit more lax about what it means to be in position because I'm trying out this new position. Obviously I'm adapted to my old position, and even that last week felt difficult and my legs felt very stiff after those efforts. Just getting used to the stimulus again of doing long efforts. Get out of the sticks if I need to for a couple of seconds, a minute, play around with different reach in the actual extensions. Don't know, my legs were getting this stiff last week, but they do feel quite stiff, and especially like my lower left back feels like I'm reaching a bit too much for the pedal. I've just raised everything up by 1 centimetre, which is relatively significant. Normally you'd go in like 5mm increments for that sort of thing. So it's basically doing 2 of those. I don't know, be sensible with it. I'm not gonna try and aggressively hold position and get myself injured doing that, but I think if I'm just a bit more lax about it, I can get a good amount of time done experimenting with the new saddle height, and see if that's a way to go forward or not. Yeah. Not going to change it mid-session. I already spent too long changing it this morning. Still lots of green, but yeah, probably like 320 average for that first 25 minutes rather than 330 last week. Give myself a 15-minute rest as well. All good stuff. Second one felt much better. Numb nuts, but that's normal for getting used to doing some long efforts again, but felt stable in the saddle, was relaxed into the position a bit more, and yeah, definitely takes some getting used to, but I think it should feel alright. So yeah, another 15 minutes and then crack on with the final effort. Was feeling much better on that last effort, just no particular pain, and like feel like I'm activating my glutes, my hamstrings and my quads more evenly rather than just smashing my quads. I got about 18 minutes in and then yeah, saddle sores were, well, numbness down there meant that I had to give myself a minute to reset, get some blood back to the nether region. There we go. just ride zone 2 now. So when I was at Catesby Wind Tunnel, the bike I was wearing had a lot of pressure sensors, and we had a look at the data, and with my very low saddle, having a look at like the force generated at different parts of the pedal stroke, I'm very biased towards producing my power at the 3 o'clock position, which makes sense if you're utilising your quads more. But there's like pedalling technique people talk about with the scraping the stuff off the bottom of your shoe. So like pulling through that bottom part of the pedal stroke through that 6 o'clock position. Based on the profile, I was hardly producing any power there. So that's potentially something to be gained from like ideally producing the same amount of power at 3 o'clock, but then producing more power on that backstroke through the 6 o'clock position. You're going to do that by utilising your glutes and your hamstrings a bit more, which I should be able to do with a slightly higher saddle. Whereas with a really low saddle, I'm like dorsiflex my ankles and I'm just able to push down with my quads really. But I think that's going to take a while because relearning that pedalling technique to pull through the bottom, it's not as simple as, oh, just increase your saddle height and then I'm producing more power. I have to like think about my pedaling dynamics a bit more consciously, which is worth trying. It's worth a try. Could be big gains to be made there. Also felt a lot more planted in the saddle. Like I didn't feel like I was moving around that much, which is maybe why the numbness came on a lot earlier. But if you're planted centrally in the saddle, I'd say that's a good thing. And maybe that's because normally, because I have my left leg's slightly longer than my right, so I'd normally shift over to the right side of the saddle. I'd like slip off the right side. But with the higher saddle, I don't have to dorsiflex my left ankle as much, so I'm not trying to shorten that leg as much to prevent it being longer and pushing me off the side of the saddle. So maybe that's why I felt a bit more planted. And I know I have had it before where nothing serious, but I can feel my tibialis working quite a lot because I'm holding that dorsiflex ankle position, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's a good thing to be able to do. Dropping the heel rather than pointing toe down. Just interesting things to notice. Solid ride that. A bit late now, it's like 5:30 because I was late to get on just because I was getting distracted by looking at the domestic time trialling calendar that got announced today. But yeah, good ride, having a go at this new position. So 3x25 minute tempo in a TT position. A little bit of rest in there because I'm not entirely used to it, a bit different. But yeah, 4 hours total, 260 watt average for the ride. Yeah, absolutely solid work in the bank. 3 big days, 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours. And yeah, I feel like I've kicked this illness for good. Rest day tomorrow, and yeah, keep moving forward. Oh god, feels like I've just done an anaerobic test effort. Bloody hell. Hey guys, Saturday on a turbo for a session today. Got sprints and high torque work. First session of the week because on Tuesday I'd had a little bit of a cold and that was my first ride trying to get on the bike properly again, and decided it wasn't going to be sensible to do a session because I wasn't quite ready for it. And I feel like cold, very minor cold. It stuck around a little bit longer than I thought it would. Like those first few days on the bike, I was fine, I felt fine, but just still a little bit of a tickle in the throat. I think I'm absolutely fine today. Very cold this morning, but just getting outside, it's very cold outside, so you get a snivelly nose, but yeah, I feel absolutely fine, but this session is spanking my ass. Just on my sprints, so there were 7 seated sprints, max seated sprints, they were alright, and then 9 seated 10-second sprints that were fucking hard work, those. Trying not to twinge my neck. I've been doing that way too frequently. I've been like 4 times in the past few weeks. But yeah, got my sprints done, and those 10-second sprints, man, they get you. So yeah, spinning out for a minute now. I'll have a sit down actually, and then have a go at the high torque work. Aim for the same session as last time, so 6 by 3 minutes at 95 Newton meters. So that's aim for 420, 42 RPM. And yeah, see if I can make them all 3-minute efforts, because last time I think the last 2 were 2 minutes, which is still good, but I'd like to get 6 by 3 minutes and then have a go at, then maybe have a go at 5 by 4 minutes, like a zombie, man. Whew. I feel like I'm getting a bit of a saddle sore on my left side, which is really interesting actually. So yeah, I have a leg length discrepancy. My left leg's slightly longer than my right, and so I tend to sit off the right side of the saddle. So I end up getting saddle sores on my right side. I've been, over the past 6 months or so, plus even more than that, I've been trying to be more seated, more planted on my sit bones, so that I'm not slipping off the side of the saddle. But it'd still be the case that if I'm getting a saddle sore, it'll be on the right hand side. But yeah, it's feeling sore on the left, so maybe that's progress. Try and revert to my old ways and balance it back out again. What a load of nonsense. Wasn't pretty, but got it done. Slightly worse than my session 8 days ago, but only 1 minute off doing that, matching that session. So I did manage 4 by 3 minutes and then 2 by 2 minutes, around 95 Newton meters. So yeah, still a solid session, and it was really in my legs today. Just my legs were giving up. Often I'll be able to get up to, even though they're short efforts, I'll get up to 180 BPM or at least high 170s. Heart rate wasn't getting as high today. Didn't feel like I was struggling. Like, for these high torque efforts, you expect to struggle muscularly rather than cardiovascularly, but I've noticed that my heart rate does get very high on them, because they are at that VO2 max type power. But today, very much felt in my legs, and it's not surprising. I haven't been doing as much gym work, been unsure when to fit it in, so I want to get started next week. I need to get a bit more consistent with that. So obviously it was a bit weird at the start of this week with illness, well, with this mild cold that I had, so I didn't do gym, and then I did it after my tempo session 2 days ago, so it's a bit fresher in the legs, but I was able to get a good session done in like 40 minutes, 35-40 minutes, and it's so much more convenient just having a squat rack here, and I can just get a good session done. I mean, I just did back squats and snatch grip deadlifts. Got a good little training session in, even though it was getting quite late, and I'm like, oh, how am I going to fit the gym in? But I just got it done. So more of that attitude rather than, I'm tired, I've got a good base of gym volume, I don't need to do it. Just get it done, mate. Science isn't there for it, but like, there is a nice crossover, I feel, between the sprints, high torque and gym work. They combine that quite nicely together. So got like 6 more weeks of this training block, the high torque and the sprint work. So make sure I'm keeping on top of the gym work, and then when I get to the more race specific work, maybe then I'll ease off the gym, but get another solid 6 weeks of gym in, and yeah. Right, no heat today, because I'm coming back from that minor cold. So last week, after both of my high torque sprint sessions, I did like 40 minutes of heat at the end, and I don't feel like the heat was what got me ill, but it is like a big stressor on your nervous system, that. So I'm not going to bother with it today, and then reintroduce it next week. 1 or 2 sessions, maybe do 1 session next week, 1 session the week after, and then move up to 2 sessions. Just give my body, even though it's like I'm not feeling any different or bad sensations after the heat, but I know you can really easily overdo it, even if it feels absolutely fine. So take that with caution for sure. And yeah, it's only January, mate. But the reason I'm doing the heat now is because I know that it kind of crept up on me last year. It was just like, shit, it's hot. And I was like, I wanted to do the heat work as it was getting warmer, and then that led to some sort of overtraining with maybe related to too much heat stimulus. So if I can get the heat work in early and I'm adapted before the weather changes, then I feel like I'm less susceptible to that thing happening again. I do feel like illness probably isn't a bad thing. Like, we're all like, so annoying when I get ill, I'm losing training, but unless you're a doctor and you're hanging around people who are ill all the time, like, you're getting ill because you've got a weakened immune system because you're probably training too much. So maybe it's the case that I feel like if you're overreaching a little bit, like, yes, you've got a chance of getting ill, but it's not like a super high chance. And maybe a lot of the time when you do get ill, it's because you're in that zone of, yes, you're overreaching a lot, but you're on like the verge of overtraining, and you'd be better off going overreaching a little bit less. You're less likely to get ill, and you can more steadily progress like that. If I just trained like an absolute monk, stayed in here, didn't interact with anyone, didn't interact with the outside world, it's like, I'm not going to come into contact with any viruses. So I could just keep ramping up the training, and I could get to like a 30-hour week, but I don't think my body's going to react well to that. Like, that's just way too much training for me at the moment. Maybe in a couple of years' time I can get a 30-hour week done, but I know physically I could do a 30-hour week, but I know that it wouldn't be good for me. It would be too much training. But if I'm not interacting with anyone who's potentially spreading illnesses, then I wouldn't get ill. But that getting ill is what tells you that, okay, you actually need to have a break here, mate. It forces you to take a break. Whereas if you never got that illness, you'd keep going, and then you get to the serious overtraining stuff. So yeah, don't get stressed about your illness. Like, recognize the signs early, and it's probably a sign that you're maybe pushing a bit too hard, and just ease off the gas a little bit. It is tricky though, because like training full time, I like want to be getting the most out of my training, becoming the best athlete I can. So obviously you want to be in that stage of overreaching to try and get better. But it can be easy to just push it a little bit too far and go over the edge, can't it? There we go. 4 hours total, solid session. Can't complain with that. Hey guys, it's Sunday. Cold one, but getting out on the bike for 4 hours then too. So yeah, cracking on with that now. Layered up nice and warm though, so hopefully should be fine. Should be a nice ride. Looks like I've snapped a shifter cable, so like the bulb at the end must have come off. Well, it's snapped there, so like there's no, yeah, basically just need to put a new shifter cable in. So yeah, gonna have to abandon ship 5 minutes into the ride, head home in my biggest gear. Nice. Oh well. Yep, not ideal. I'll tie that to the frame, get it out of the way. Sheared the bulb off at the end. Big ride, boys. I started out at the bottom of a hill, so I had to push the bike up that bit of hill because it was just way too steep. And then there was a flat bit of road that I was able to chug along in my 50-12, my max gear on this bike. And then there was like a shallower hill that I could go up, like a 5-6% gradient. And I just did like a high torque effort up there, like 3 or 4 minutes at very low cadence, big watts in the big gear. But right, I mean, I have kit to, I have spare gear cables, but it'll take me at least half an hour to get that sorted. So I think I'm just going to hop on the turbo, get my ride done, rather than waiting in the chamois for another hour, and then getting out. So yeah, and then I'll fix the bike later. Wrap the gear cable around the frame. What a wanker. Guess I'm lucky it happened 5 minutes into the ride rather than ending up stranded in the Peak District and calling for help. Already have new gear cables on stock, so I'll change that out either this evening or over the next couple of days, and yeah, get the bike ready to go again. If you're wondering, they weren't actually official Shimano cables. They're like some ones that I got off Amazon. And yeah, when I knew that stuff was shit, but like when I rebuilt the bike at the start of March for my first race, because I had no, my TCR was broken. That was the only ones I had on hand, and I was able to fix up the bike with that. Yeah, I think the brake cables I got from Decathlon, but end up using these shifter cables that I had spare from when I first tried to do some mechanic work on that bike. And yeah, they worked fine for the year, but yeah, I'll change out the cables and the outer housing as well, so that'll be a bit of a longer job. So not going to stress and try and do that and then get out, because yeah, I mean, I'd just be likelihood of fucking something up, and then yeah, I'll just get on the turbos, fine, and then yeah, sort it at a later date. Bit of delay obviously, but pretty much hopped straight on the turbo after my failed ride this morning. I was all wrapped up nice and warm for it, had my little hat on, had my shoe covers, had leggings on. But yeah, wasn't meant to be. Sort the bike out tomorrow. Yeah. 3 hours 40 zone 2, 22 hours for the week. Yeah, solid week of training in the bank. Had to lay off the intensity because of mild cold that I had, but back to it now, so yeah, keep pressing on. Pretty heavy legs today. Was struggling the high torque work yesterday after feel like I had heavy gym legs, heavy DOMs. Definitely still feeling that a little bit now, but that'll clear up. Keep pushing on, and yeah, good stuff.